The mirror in the hallway. I never liked the long hallway in my apartment building. Narrow, dimly lit, with a single cracked mirror halfway down. I assumed the mirror was just old, reflective of the years and neglect. I never expected it to watch me. The first time I noticed something odd, I was brushing past the mirror on my way to the elevator. My reflection moved a fraction of a second slower than I did. I stopped, blinked. It had mimicked me again, just behind my actual movements. I tested it. I raised my hand. My reflection hesitated. I lowered it. The image did the same. My stomach dropped. Something in that glass was alive, conscious, separate, yet bound to me in ways I couldn't understand. I started avoiding the hallway, taking the stairs instead, trying to ignore the mirror. But at night, I would hear faint whispers, just beyond comprehension. Sometimes my name. Sometimes words I didn't recognize, spoken in my own voice. The reflection began to change, subtle at first. A tilt of the head, an expression that didn't belong to me. A shadow passing over its face that wasn't in the hallway. Each night, it grew bolder, inching toward me when I wasn't looking directly. I tried covering it with sheets. Nothing changed. The moment I left, the mirror seemed to peel back the fabric with invisible hands, revealing itself perfectly intact, waiting, aware. I took a camera and filmed the reflection. On playback, my reflection moved normally, matching my movements. But in the live view, I could see it lag, watch, plan. The discrepancy was maddening. Proof that the hallway, the mirror, something was bending reality around me. One night, the reflection smiled when I didn't. My stomach twisted. I could feel a weight pressing through the glass, reaching for me, trying to pull me into its world. I staggered back, bumping against the wall, breath short, heart racing. I began experimenting, turning my back, stepping sideways, moving in irregular patterns. It copied, eventually perfectly, but sometimes delayed, leaving me to face it moments before it aligned. The misalignment terrified me more than anything else. The whispers grew louder. They no longer resembled my voice, but many voices layered on top of each other. They spoke in languages I didn't know, syllables sharp and pointed, yet I understood the intent. Observation, warning, patience. The hallway became suffocating. Even during the day, I felt watched. I would step past the mirror and catch fleeting movement behind it. Impossible to track, yet undeniable. The building had shifted. The reflection had shifted. And I was trapped in both. I stopped trying to fight. I began speaking to the mirror, asking questions it could not answer. Sometimes the reflection would tilt its head as if listening. Sometimes it would disappear completely, leaving a void in the glass that felt like empty eyes. One evening, I decided to confront it. I stepped close, nose nearly touching the surface. I whispered, "Who are you?" The mirror rippled. My reflection's eyes flickered black, then returned to normal. A single word appeared on the glass, traced slowly, impossibly. Mine. I ran back to my apartment, locked the door, covered the hallway mirror with blankets. Nothing helped. Each night, the mirror's influence grew. I would wake to see traces of its presence on my bedroom wall, faint outlines, shadows moving, almost human. I stopped leaving the apartment. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped talking. But the mirror continued to exist, alive, waiting, plotting. I could feel it in every reflective surface, sometimes in puddles, sometimes in window glass, always present. I finally understood. The mirror wasn't a reflection. It was a doorway, watching, learning, recording. And one day, if I weren't careful, it would step out, leaving me trapped on the other side. I lie awake, staring at my ceiling, hearing faint tapping, scratching, a whisper repeating, "Look into me. Come closer." I don't move. I don't breathe. I can't. The mirror is patient. It always waits. The painting that watched. I bought the painting at a thrift store, drawn to its dark, swirling colors. Something about it felt alive. When I hung it in my apartment, I thought it would just be decoration. I was wrong. The first night, I noticed the eyes in the painting seemed sharper, more focused. I blinked, thinking it was my imagination. But every time I looked back, they had shifted, subtly following me across the room. I tried moving it to another wall. The eyes adjusted instantly. The figure in the painting remained focused on me. It wasn't the lighting, the angle, or shadows. It was deliberate. At night, I heard whispers, soft, indistinct, curling around my ears. The painting seemed to pulse with sound, synchronized to my heartbeat. I could feel its attention like a weight pressing against my chest. I attempted to cover it. Sheets, blankets, furniture. By morning, the eyes were visible, peering around the edges, unblinking, patient. The painting refused to be ignored. I recorded it with my phone. Playback showed only a static, unremarkable painting. But in real time, I could see the subtle shifts, the tilt of the head, the narrowing of the eyes. Something inside the frame was alive. The figure began to change. At first, only the expression shifted a faint smile, a tightening jaw. Then the background warped subtly. Shadows that hadn't been there appeared, stretching toward the edges of the room, reaching for me. I tried reasoning with it, speaking aloud, asking questions, even apologizing for staring. The figure would tilt its head, as if listening. Then the eyes would widen in mock surprise, always aware, always analyzing. I stopped sleeping. Every movement in the apartment felt amplified, deliberate. Every creak, scrape, or whisper seemed tied to the painting. I felt watched constantly, as if the figure was cataloging my every thought, every action. One night, I approached it closely. I leaned in to inspect the brushwork. The figure's eyes blinked independently of my own, and a faint voice echoed in my head, whispering my name, repeating secrets I hadn't spoken aloud. I backed away. The painting seemed to breathe, expanding slightly, the colors swirling with a life of their own. My apartment no longer felt like mine. The figure had claimed it, claiming me along with it. I moved to another room. Shadows shifted, light flickered. I could hear the faint scratching of fingernails on canvas, soft but unmistakable. The painting's presence was everywhere, not confined to the wall. I began avoiding its gaze. I would pass the painting quickly, never looking directly. Still, I could feel it in every reflection, in the corner of my eye, and sometimes in my dreams, where it whispered warnings, beckoning, always patient. Eventually, I stopped trying to fight it. I stopped covering it. I stopped recording. I simply moved through the apartment, careful not to trigger its attention. But the eyes remained ever watchful, waiting for the moment I faltered. Sometimes, late at night, I hear footsteps, faint whispers, and the soft rustle of canvas stretching. The painting watches. It waits. It knows. And I understand now, the moment I stop noticing it, the painting will take more than my attention. I lie awake, heart pounding, eyes scanning the wall, aware that the figure observes everything. Alive, patient, inevitable. And I know that the longer I live with it, the more it learns, until one day I may no longer exist except in its gaze. The apartment that moved. When I signed the lease, the building seemed normal. Old, yes, but normal. That first night, I realized it wasn't. The walls whispered in the dark, subtle, almost polite, until I recognized a pattern in the sound. I woke to find my bedroom slightly shifted. The bed was closer to the door, the dresser a few inches to the left. I blamed fatigue, but the next morning, measurements proved it had moved, not by millimeters, but inches. Enough to notice. Each night, the apartment rearranged itself. Doors weren't where I left them. The hallway stretched or contracted, depending on where I stood. I walked the floors, trying to map it, but each time I returned, everything had changed again. The air grew colder in the corners. Shadows bent oddly, not matching the furniture or light sources. I began to hear faint whispers in the walls, repeating fragments of my day, mimicking my voice, twisting my words into questions I hadn't yet asked aloud. I tried recording the apartment. Video and audio showed only normal rooms, still furniture, static walls. But my own senses screamed at me. The apartment was alive, watching, testing, responding. One night, I noticed the ceiling appeared lower in certain areas. The floor seemed uneven, the hallway narrower than before. The building flexed and folded around me, ending space as if I were inside a living organism. I moved the furniture back to its original places. By morning, everything had returned to its new configuration. It wasn't random. It remembered. It adjusted. It was aware. The whispers became voices, layering over each other. My own words repeated back, distorted, mocking. Sometimes they spoke in languages I didn't know. Sometimes in tones that mimicked my own emotions perfectly, a cruel reflection of my fear and curiosity. I tried to leave. The door would not open, or it would swing into a wall that wasn't there before. I ran to the windows. Some faced brick walls that hadn't existed the day before. The building was a maze, alive, rewriting itself around me. I began documenting every shift, every movement, every whisper. I wrote notes, drew maps, but they made no sense the next day. The apartment was rewriting my memory along with its walls. My own recollection of space became unreliable. One evening, I discovered a small trapdoor in the floor of the living room. It hadn't been there before. I lifted it, revealing stairs leading down into blackness. Curiosity and fear battled inside me, but I descended. Below was a corridor lined with mirrors, reflecting spaces that shouldn't exist. The walls themselves seemed to pulse. A box lay at the end. I approached, hesitant. It was small, wooden, ordinary, but I knew it contained what the apartment had been collecting. Inside were notes in my handwriting, thoughts I hadn't recorded, fears I hadn't admitted aloud. Each one was cataloged, stacked neatly, like the building had been observing my mind as much as my body. I backed away. The mirrors rippled. My reflection multiplied, stretching into shapes I didn't recognize, each one mimicking, mocking, studying me. I ran up the stairs and slammed the trapdoor shut. Now, I don't move furniture. I don't open doors without checking every hinge. I walk carefully through the apartment, afraid of triggering shifts. The building is alive. It learns. It watches. And every night, it folds itself around me, closer, tighter. I try to sleep, but the floor vibrates beneath me. The walls whisper my name. I feel the apartment pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. I understand now. It's patient. It waits. It will continue shaping, shifting, claiming more until I cannot distinguish what is mine and what belongs to it. Every day, I wonder if the world outside is static, or if the building reaches beyond its walls, bending reality, extending the maze, waiting for me to falter. I lie awake, heart pounding, as the apartment moves around me, alive, eternal, unyielding. The staircase that never ended. I moved into the old building because it was cheap. The stairwell was narrow, steep, and smelled faintly of damp wood, but I didn't think much of it. That first night, I noticed something impossible. The stairs had changed. I went down to the lobby to get some air. The staircase stretched farther than it had before. Each step felt heavier, longer, like the building itself was growing beneath my feet. I chalked it up to exhaustion. The next morning, I measured the steps. They had indeed lengthened by inches. I laughed nervously, telling myself it was my imagination. But the stairs continued to shift, subtly, always responding to me. I started avoiding them. I took the elevator, but the staircase seemed to reach out, pressing against the walls, making the elevator feel too slow, as though it knew I would try to escape its influence. One night, I heard footsteps above me, not in my apartment, but on the staircase. They descended slowly, deliberately, matching my heartbeat. I waited in the dark, frozen, realizing no one else lived in the building. I forced myself to climb the stairs to see. The staircase seemed to stretch endlessly upward. Steps repeated, patterns twisted, angles impossible to navigate. I reached the top and found a landing that shouldn't exist, a door that hadn't been there before. The door opened into a corridor, longer than any hallway should be, lined with shadows. At the end, a wooden box rested on the floor, small and unassuming, yet radiating menace. I felt it pull at me, demanding attention. Inside the box were notes. My handwriting stared back at me. Thoughts I hadn't recorded, fears I hadn't admitted, secrets I didn't remember sharing. The staircase had been collecting me, observing, storing my life in plain sight. I backed away, stumbling, the shadows moving with me. The staircase itself seemed alive, bending, twisting, folding space around me. Each step I took altered its shape. Every decision changed its configuration. I tried to descend. The steps no longer obeyed physics. Some vanished beneath me, replaced with nothing. Others stretched impossibly long. I clung to the railing, heart pounding, realizing the building was sentient, and I was trapped inside its experiment. I returned to my apartment, exhausted, trying to convince myself it was over. But each night, the staircase called to me. The steps creaked, groaned, twisted. I could feel its gaze, patient, deliberate, watching for my next movement. I stopped leaving my floor. I stopped going anywhere. I tiptoed to my apartment door, afraid of the sound the stairs might make if I misstepped. I realized the building didn't just exist. It was aware, and it was learning me. Sometimes in dreams, I climb the staircase endlessly. Each step stretches farther, folding over itself. The box waits at the top, always containing more of me, more secrets, more fears. And the staircase whispers my name. I awake in a cold sweat. The stairs creak in the dark. The building pulses around me. I know that one day, if I take the wrong step, the staircase will claim me entirely, folding me into its endless geometry, leaving nothing but echoes behind. The staircase never ends. It only waits, patient, observant, hungry. And I understand now that I am no longer the resident of this building. I am a piece of it, catalogued, measured, and always moving within its infinite steps.